This is Mac OS Ken.
If it's Tuesday, there must be a change in tariff policy. Musk does something very musky, and Apple Cinemas doubles down on the Apple thing. It is Tuesday, the 12th of August, 2025. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. The 145% tariff on goods imported into the US from China was supposed to go into effect today, and you will never guess what happened yesterday. According to a piece from 9 to 5 Mac, just hours before a new wave of tariffs on Chinese goods was set to kick in, President Trump signed an executive order extending the pause by another 90 days. And this time, says the site, it's especially good news for Apple. According to them, the move gives Apple a bit of breathing room in the fourth quarter, also known as the September quarter. It's likely to include at least a week or two of iPhone 17 sales. While Apple's building a majority of its US-bound iPhones in India at this point, 9 to 5 Mac says Trump's latest extension gives the company some extra flexibility to source units from China if needed to meet US demand. The Lord bless and keep 9 to 5 Mac for leaping to the end of the September quarter, numbers for which we'll likely hear in late October. Apple CEO Tim Cook and CFO Kevin Parekh both offered commentary for the current quarter, assuming the current global tariff rates, policies, and applications do not change for the balance of the quarter, and no new tariffs are added. The site wonders whether Cook and Kev meant no new tariffs beyond the then looming 145% spike, or were they working from the then and still current 30% rate? Uncertainty in this economy? Whatever the case, 9 to 5 Mac says Apple was just handed 90 more days of flexibility during a few of the most important weeks of the year, and beyond that, they can even start eyeing a tariff spike-free holiday season in case the deadline gets pushed once more in mid-November or dropped altogether between now and then. Hey, maybe by then we can get clarity on Trump's proclamation last week that companies like Apple that are building in the US won't face tariffs. Questions around that include, was that statement just about chips and semiconductors? Was it about all imports into the US? And perhaps the most important question, would somebody please get me a scotch? You know how Elon Musk keeps talking about leaving the planet? Here's a story to make you beg the question, when? Right before recording today's show, CNBC ran a piece that had the world's richest man, Elon Musk, threatening to sue one of the world's most valuable companies, Apple, over alleged antitrust violations. The piece had Musk posting on some social media site, not sure which one, maybe somebody can tell me. Apple is behaving in a manner that makes it impossible for any AI company besides OpenAI to reach number one in the App Store, which is an unequivocal antitrust violation. XAI will take immediate legal action. In another post he said, why do you refuse to put either X or Grok on your must-have section when X is the number one news app in the world and Grok is number 5 among all apps? Are you playing politics? Sounds like somebody's jealous of Trump's trophy. Hey, any word on that scotch, by the way? Perhaps it would be sensible to call iPhone a small, though notable fish in a very big pond. Market tracker IDC hit with numbers for smartphone shipments for India for the first half of 2025. Not a ton of movement, though tons and tons of phones. Shipments hit 70 million units through the end of June, representing growth of 1% versus the first half of 2024. That said, there was big growth for iPhone. iPhone shipments for the first 6 months of 2025 hit 5.9 million units, representing growth of 21.5%. Amazingly, that was enough to crush it. The iPhone 16 was the highest shipped model across India in the first half of 2025, according to IDC, making up 4% of overall India shipments during that period. That said, the Cupertino company is the 7th largest smartphone maker in India, with a second quarter market share of 7.5%. Proving how funny numbers can be, growth in the various pricing tiers skewed towards the high end. According to the firm, shipments of phones selling for $100 US or less grew 23%. Phones between $100 and $200 grew 1%. Phones between $200 and $400 declined 30%. Phones between $400 and $600 grew 39.5%. Phones between $600 and $800 grew 96%. And phones $800 or more grew 16%. Sounds like people who had access to financing or had more money to spend spent more money. Or they were expected to, hence the increased shipments. The problem is more people don't have more money. While the market has rebounded from a 2-quarter slump, IDC says that subdued consumer demand and rising average selling prices are expected to limit the pace of annual recovery. So how small a rise are we talking about? We are not. IDC estimates a low single-digit decline in smartphone shipments for India in 2025, according to the firm. All of that said, one assumes and/or imagines that Apple's focus on the Indian market, plus new phones coming in the next month or so, will stand the Cupertino company in good stead. Put another way, people with more money to spend will be able to spend more money on new iPhones soon. The 6 developer betas of OS 26 are out. Apple Insider ran a piece Monday heralding developer program availability for the 6th builds of this fall's updates of iOS, iPadOS, macOS, watchOS, tvOS, and visionOS. As for what's new, it looks like Apple's still playing around with liquid glass. A piece from Mac Rumors has Apple leaning into the lock screen this week. In addition to additional transparency, the piece says the clock also has more of a 3D floating look, which is in line with the rest of the liquid glass design. Apple didn't change the liquid glass look of the control buttons, but the icons are said to be larger. Get past the lock screen and things seem to happen more quickly in the latest iOS beta. A piece from 9to5Mac says the animation to launch apps in the latest iOS 26 beta is noticeably faster. According to that piece, the contents of the app itself won't necessarily load faster. It all depends on how recently you use the application. But the time between hitting the app's icon and having the app open has been noticeably made shorter. Not only does it not change an app's actual performance, may also not be a thing, at least not by the time most people get the update. 9to5Mac entertains the possibility that the speedy speed is a quirk of the new beta, not a planned change. That said, it looks like an intentional move to them. We shall see. From speed to see to ringtones to hear, it may come as a surprise to many of you to find that Apple still has ringtones built in. Now an even bigger surprise, they made some new ones. Back to Mac Rumors we go, where we find Apple dropping 6 new variations of the standard reflection ringtone into iOS 26. The new variants are Buoyant, Dreamer, Tech, Pop, Reflected, and Surge. Additionally, Apple's made an entirely new ringtone called Little Bird. You can hear samples of all of the new ones on the Mac Rumors site. Digging a bit deeper, Apple Insider says it looks like the branding for HomeKit is going away. According to that site, the term Apple Home is turning up more and more places in the beta software, taking the places of HomeKit. The latest example has yesterday's tvOS 26 beta, replacing AirPlay and HomeKit in settings with AirPlay and Apple Home. The news shouldn't be terribly surprising. At least as far back as January, another piece from Apple Insider had the Cupertino company applying the Works with Apple Home mark on devices built on the Matter smart devices platform. As happened last time, old operating systems also got new betas on Monday. In addition to seeding Everything OS 26, the Apple Insider piece with which we started says developers also got release candidates for macOS 15.7 and macOS 14.8 on Monday. The last notes on those said they were updates focused on security. Developers also got access to the 6th beta for the next software for HomePod on Monday. That should hit with Everything OS 26. And finally today, the folks at Apple Cinemas are singing a Tom Petty song this week. Can't remember the name of it. It's the one where he says he won't back down. And maybe it'll come to me. Anyway, Apple Cinemas issued a press release Monday in the never stop, never stopping vein. According to that, for over a decade, Apple Cinemas has proudly delivered a best-in-class movie-going experience to audiences across our growing network of theaters. Our name reflects our roots, beginning at our first planned location at the Apple Valley Mall in New England, a project that inspired the launch of the Apple Cinemas brand and set the foundation for our expansion. Fun fact, an article I read last week pointed out that they never actually opened that location. I'm going to change the name of this show to Twit, because the guy who writes it, that would be me, can be at Twit, and I'm sure the people at Twit won't have a problem with me using their name. Ask Apple, the computer company, how things went with Apple, the record label. Took almost 30 years to resolve that. Seriously, listen. I love movie theaters. I love movies. I love independent theaters. I love small movie theater chains. But my friends, you need to knock this off. I mean, it's good for publicity, I guess, but it is seriously hard to see how this ends well. TwitOS Ken. Oops, sorry. macOS Ken. What did I say? Brought to you by me and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSken. Advertising handle by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSken at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Everyone's a robot.